Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome to another episode of our Orchid Care for Beginners series. Today we are going to talk about 10 things that you can do in order to keep your orchids healthier. I did a video like this many years ago, but as years went by, I learned as well. So here is an update version of that with 10 easy things you can do in order to maintain your orchids healthier. Today's episode, along with our entire Orchid Care for Beginners series, is sponsored by repotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid, from media to fertilizer, pots, and all sorts of accessories. Some of the accessories that I will use in this care series and in today's video are provided by RepotMe, so I will link you to their website down below in the description. Feel free to visit them at any time. And with that said, let's start. One thing any orchid will benefit from is air movement and ventilation. In their natural habitats, orchids are exposed to wind pretty much all of the time. And while this doesn't necessarily happen in our living rooms, it is important that as much as possible we provide some type of air movement, whether it's coming from an open window or even a fan in your growing area. If you have multiple orchids, air movement promotes water evaporation, and this is especially important if we want to avoid rotting. Even though we might be careful, water can get trapped in between the leaves on the stems of our orchids in their new growths, and if we are unlucky enough, it can lead to rotting. The more air movement we have, the more we will limit these problems, because crown rot and stem rot, in my opinion, are two of the worst things that can happen to a Phalaenopsis orchid. And I'm sure you will agree with me when I say that it's better to prevent these issues, if possible, rather than try to treat them. In the case of stem rot, in my opinion, it is close to impossible to properly treat it. If you intend to use fans, make sure that the fan is not very close to the orchid. You don't want to create a storm in your growing area. What you're looking for is a bit of leaf movement. This lets you know that the air is circulating in your growing room and the orchids will benefit from it. Just as important as air circulation, but maybe a little bit more overlooked, is the quality of the air. In their natural habitats, orchids are not confined in a room or in a tight place. So the air they experience is always constantly refreshed. It's the outdoors. Well, in our living rooms, we might not always refresh our air as often as we should. This can lead to an accumulation of pathogens in the air, which might be harmless to us, but might be very detrimental to our orchids. From fungal spores to bacteria and other microbes, all of these things can accumulate in the air of our room. So it's very important to open the windows and refresh the air at least once a day. Sometimes the air outside might be too cold, so we cannot keep our windows open for too long, but it is important at least once a day for a few minutes to open those windows just to let out the old air and bring in fresh new air from outside. Air is not only important on the outside, but also on the inside, as it were, in the pot and the potting medium. Generally, most orchids we can grow in our homes are epiphytic. This means that they don't grow in soils, but in the air attached to trees or even rocks. For this reason, roots need air as well, just like the leaves and the flowers. So when we choose a pot and a medium for our orchid, it is important that we keep in mind the quantity of air that these pots can provide. An orchid-designed pot usually has extra ventilation holes along with drainage holes. Also, the medium has to be a special one. We cannot just use an all-purpose soil. Orchid mixes are typically quite airy and include materials which promote aeration as well as moisture in the pot. As a side note, if you want to learn more about how to repot Phalaenopsis orchids, what pots to use, as well as what medium will suit you better, check the description. I have an entire video dedicated only to repotting Phalaenopsis. But as a general idea, all orchids benefit from an airy medium and an adequate pot. Aerated media and pots make sure that the roots will grow healthy. If the medium inside is too compacted or deprived of air, we risk rotting the roots, which leads me to another very common problem with orchids, which is root rot. Aeration in the medium will greatly reduce the risk of root rot to the point of actually not being able to rot the roots. Now let's move on from air to water. It is really important to adapt your watering technique to the orchid you have and the style of setup you have. And this includes the type of medium you have as well. You might know that many articles suggest that you water your orchids every 7 days. Well, that can apply to some people, but definitely doesn't apply to everybody. So if you try to water your orchid every 7 days rather than when you should water it, you might end up with an overwatered orchid or a severely dehydrated one. Again, I do have an entire episode dedicated to how to water Phalaenopsis orchids, which you will find down below in the description, but this applies to all orchids. You have to adapt the way you water your orchid to the medium you have. If you have a very aerated setup, such as a basket, combined with a non-water retentive medium, then your watering technique should include ways to promote water absorption and retention, such as soaking the pot or the basket. In this case, definitely you need to see when the medium dries rather than count the days. And vice versa, if you have a rather water retentive medium, you don't necessarily need to soak your orchid. It might be a little bit too much. Just running water through the pot might actually be ideal for you. Since there are so many different types of pots or setups for your orchid, you need to adapt all of your techniques to what you have rather than blindly following an article which might have been written for other types of environments, other types of orchids or setups. In this way, you can stay safe from dehydrated orchids or root-rotted orchids. Just as important as watering, but I'm sure more overlooked, is fertilizing. Orchids need food, and in order for them to produce this food, they need a few things, including nutrients. Now, I know you will read some articles that say that the only thing plants need is sunshine and water. And really, that's just a superficial way of looking at things. Let's take, for example, chlorophyll, which is the green pigment found in all plants, including orchids. In order for a plant to produce chlorophyll, it needs, amongst other things, magnesium and nitrogen. Those are two elements that sunlight and rainwater don't provide. What provides them is a nutrient source that contains them. In nature, orchids naturally obtain these elements that they need to grow from breaking down organic debris around them. But in our living room, the chemical processes needed for those elements to occur don't exist. So we need to provide them in the form of a nutrient solution called fertilizer. Now, fertilizers are of different types. My preferred fertilizer, as you might know, for the past 4 years is the MSU, especially designed for soft water, but of course on the market you can find all sorts of nutrients. What's important is to find a fertilizer which contains as many nutrients as possible, both macro elements and trace elements. They are all essential for orchids, and they will not be able to provide their own food and grow without them. Another very important aspect that I think many people forget about is flushing, and this one is strictly related to fertilizer. Since all orchids are just a little bit different, some are smaller, some are bigger, some grow faster than others, they will consume nutrients at different rates. And it's very hard to determine and measure exactly how much fertilizer to give to each and every single one of your orchids. For this reason, sometimes fertilizer accumulates as salts on the top of the medium or on the roots. Salt damage on orchid roots typically looks like darkened patches, such as these brown patches. To some extent, they are unavoidable. Some are not even caused by salts, but rather by the tannin, which can stain the root, but it doesn't damage it. But if the salt quantity is extreme, you can even have severe damage of the root and velamen, such as here. We can see that in this case, the velamen is completely destroyed. The way to prevent salt buildup, or at least minimize the damage it can create, is through flushing. This means running plain clear water without fertilizer through the pot, or my preferred way, soaking the entire pot for about 10 minutes with clean water. Of course, this will depend on the setup you have. If you cannot soak it, then just running water for 30 seconds or so should be okay. What this will do is it will help those salts to dissolve in water and, as the name suggests, get flushed away. After 10 minutes or so, I like to drain the pot of my orchid very, very well, then dispose of all of this water, place my orchid back, and then continue with my usual routine. You can flush an orchid whenever you want. At least once a month would be ideal. And you can do so in whatever type of container you prefer. The idea is to just dissolve these accumulated salts every once in a while so that they don't create damage. Just a little side note here, flushes are welcome no matter the type of fertilizer you are using, be it powder or granulated or liquid. Liquid fertilizers are nothing more than pre-dissolved powder fertilizer, so even with these you can have salt accumulations when they dry up. Also, organic fertilizers can create buildup as well, especially bio-load, which can be just as damaging. Organic debris can start to decompose in your orchid pot, and through decomposition, byproducts and even acidity can occur, which can burn and damage the roots. So no matter the fertilizer or nutrient type you are using, flushing is really important. Now let's talk about aesthetics. It's a very important practice not to let dust accumulate on the leaves of your orchids. It's unavoidable to have some dust on the leaves, but from time to time it's a great idea to remove it. Dust on the leaves can actually limit the quantity of light available for the leaf. And not only that, it can also harbor pests. Spider mites typically have a much better life in dusty environments. So from time to time, when you see dust accumulated, just get a cotton disc or a paper tissue and wipe the upper side of the leaf. Do not swipe the underside. Typically, this area is not as dusty, and on the underside of leaves, you can find the breathing mechanisms of orchids. If you clog them, the orchid will have issues breathing. So just stick to the parts that are most visible, which are the upper sides. And my little orchid was super dirty. A little side note here, avoid actually showering or misting your orchid, unless you can be sure that the water will completely evaporate super fast. Since even with these measures, the water is not as prone to evaporation as it is in nature, and also because we don't actually grow our orchids the way they would normally grow in nature, like this, water tends to pool in the crown and in between the leaves, and this can lead to rotting. So if this ever happens, get a paper napkin and completely remove it from the crown or in between the leaves. It is a very good idea to keep everything rather dry than wet, especially in home conditions. With orchids, it is also a great idea to remove dried flower spikes because they can be quite hazardous. So many times it just happened to me that I brushed my clothes against the flower spike and my orchid ended up on the floor with broken leaves, broken roots, and out of its pot. Some orchids can be very awkward when it comes to their flower spikes, so it's a very good idea to cut away all of these spent and dried flower spikes. A little side note here, Phalaenopsis orchids can actually branch from their flower spikes. I will link you down below to a video that talks about it, so if you want to promote a secondary spike, make sure that the flower spike is still alive, but if it's dried, nothing will happen, you are safe to remove it, and it's much healthier for the orchid to remove it, because trust me, at least once in your life, you will bump over an orchid, it will end up on the floor, and you will not be happy about it. Speaking about removing problematic areas on your orchid, it is extremely important to spot an infection in time and completely remove it. Orchids can have some marks on their leaves. Many times they're just some physical marks, bruises, scratches that calloused over. Those are perfectly fine. But in the case of an active infection, the marks are typically dark in color and, most importantly, they advance. So when you see a spot on your orchid, definitely keep your eyes on it. See if the spot becomes bigger every single day or advances towards the center of the orchid. And if it does, it needs removal because it puts the life of the entire orchid in danger. The way to remove an infected portion is by going in with a sterilized pair of pruners or scissors if you've used them with other plants, and cut into good tissue under the affected part. And there we have it. And to prevent further reinfection, you can actually use ground cinnamon on the cut wound, just like so. And in this way, you prevent the infection traveling to the stem and the core of the orchid, which can lead to even losing the entire orchid. And lastly, maybe the most important thing you can do for your orchid in order to maintain it healthy is to give it attention. Many problems that orchids face in our homes can be solved by prevention and treating them in time, even crown rot or, as I've shown you, disease on leaves. If we neglect our orchids and we don't spot an infestation or a problem in time, recovering that orchid will get harder and harder as time passes. So I do encourage you all to give a look at your orchid, if not every day, then every 2 days. You don't have to make a full inspection, but look at the leaves, look a little bit on the top of the medium, maybe lift the orchid and see how the roots are doing. That's all you have to do in order to prevent serious issues from happening. And of course, following all of the other tips that I told you today will make sure that your orchid will not have to go through just unnecessary issues. And as I said earlier, it's always better to prevent things than letting them happen. And sometimes the best prevention method is just observing our orchids. And with that said, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it will be useful. Don't forget to check the description for further information and also to visit Repotme and check out their products. Thank you again, Repotme, for sponsoring today's video and this entire series. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!